Hey, it's Chris Jackman from the Aberdeen Law Firm. I just wanted to go over today's podcast, a really important topic and a question I hear all the time from people who call us wanting help for their case. And that question that I hear more than anything else is, how much is this going to cost me? And obviously, when you're going through a divorce or any kind of family law issue, it can obviously cost some money, and it's obviously a real concern for people. And so today I just want to spend about 10 minutes breaking down what the costs are that you're likely going to see in a case, and ways that you can hopefully reduce the costs that you have to pay to your lawyers and to the court. In breaking down the costs, we really need to break it down into two categories, okay? Category number one is the costs that you're going to have to pay for everything other than your lawyer. So we'll call it court costs, okay? Obviously, the county that you're filing in is going to charge you a fee to file your divorce or to file any of your family law paperwork. And depending on what county you're in and where you are and the kind of case that you have, that could range anywhere from a couple $100 to about $350 in some counties. So you're going to have that cost up front if you're the one to file. And so, a lot of times people will call and ask and say, Chris, is there an advantage to me filing first or waiting if my spouse also wants to file for a divorce? And my answer to that usually is that, frankly, there isn't a big difference, except for the fact that you're going to save, obviously, on the filing fee if you're the one who doesn't file first. So you've got that cost, number one. Number two cost you're going to have is the cost to serve the documents on your spouse. And you typically have to hire a what's called a service processing company because the rule is that anybody can serve your spouse or your ex except for you. And as you can imagine, sometimes it's hard to get your family and friends to do it. And these professional companies will usually charge between $75 and $150, depending on how many times they have to go out to serve the documents on your spouse. If it's just one time and they can get the documents to them quickly, it's usually about $75. There are going to be cases, obviously, where you have other costs in your case. These are somewhat rare, but if you, for example, own a business with your spouse and the business has to be sold because the two of you just cannot coexist at the same time and run your business, you might have to hire an expert to do what's called an appraisal of the value of the business. And these experts can be several $1,000s in many cases. Same thing with the home. If you and your spouse can't come to an agreement, either using Redfin or Zillow, as to what the value of your home is, you may have to hire a real estate appraisal to come out and appraise the home. Again, that could be a couple $1,000s. So I would say from a non-legal fee standpoint, your costs are going to easily be on the low end around $300. And the cost could end up being as much as $5,000, again, if you have to hire multiple experts for your case. Now, obviously, lawyers charge for their time. And so that's the second category of expense that you're probably going to have. And it also depends in large part, too, on whether your case is called uncontested or contested. So if you and your spouse are in complete agreement with everything in your case, including what happens to your children, if you have children, what's going to happen with your home, if you have a home, literally, if every issue is agreed upon, then your legal fees are probably going to be under $1,000. Now, you're still going to have to pay the filing fee to the court, which could be several $100s, but you're probably looking at less than $1,000 in legal fees, assuming you call our firm, to have the paperwork reviewed and entered into the courts and have it done right. Where legal fees can get expensive for you as the client is when you're looking at what's called a contested divorce, meaning that you and your spouse or you and your ex are in complete disagreement about what's going to happen with your case. I can't speak for every firm, but most firms will ask for what's called a retainer. A retainer is just an amount of money that you will put down for the case. For our firm, it's usually around $2,500. So that's a deposit that we take, and then we bill against that. The lawyers in our firm charge different amounts, but the average hourly rate for our lawyers is around $325. So, if you do the math and you figure, okay, I'm putting down $2,500, the average fee is around $325. That means that we can do about 8 hours worth of work before we completely exhaust or use up the money that you've given us. And depending on your case, that may be enough money to solve the issues in your case and get your divorce or your family law matter finalized. In other cases, as you can imagine, $2,500 just isn't going to be enough. I once represented a home builder a number of years ago, and he said, Chris, it's crazy to me that I can go out and build a new home and tell you almost down to the penny what it'll cost to build this home, but you can't tell me with much accuracy how much my divorce is going to cost me. And I remember telling him, I understand your frustration, but it's kind of an apples to oranges comparison. And the reason is that, one of the reasons why I see legal fees in terms of how much time a lawyer has to spend on someone's case, the reason why I see those hours go up and up and up and up, and consequently see the client's bill go up and up and up, is that you often don't have control over what your spouse or what the opposing attorney who's representing your spouse is doing. They may be taking you to court every month on various issues. And if that's the case, unfortunately, it's just going to cost you more money. On top of that, there's also the possibility that your case could go to a trial. I can tell you that from a statistical standpoint, about 90% of cases that are in the family law court system will settle before it goes to a trial, meaning that you and your spouse will come to an agreement. But there's always that 10% chance that your case won't it won't settle, and it'll have to go in front of a judge, just like you see on TV and the movies, and the judge will be the one to make the decision as to what is going to happen in your case. And as you can imagine, to get ready for trial and to spend easily 2 days, and it could easily run up to 4 or 5 days in trial, can be very expensive. Typically, if a case goes all the way to a trial, we see legal fees go well in excess of $10,000. Now, the good news is, if there is any good news in this for you, is that, we give you, since the case can take a long time, assuming it is going to trial, we give you plenty of time to find that money to secure us. But I want to be upfront and be honest that that's the kind of money that you're probably looking at if you want to have a lawyer with you from day one until the last day of trial. And again, it's very hard to give a general estimate of what a case is going to take from a money standpoint to finish if I don't know the particulars of your case. So I hope that in some ways this gives you an idea of kind of what you're looking at from a financial standpoint in terms of the different categories of case that you're talking about, whether it's the court fees, the expert fees that you're going to have, as well as the legal fees that you're going to face in your case, which again, it can range from as little as $900 for an uncontested case to possibly $15,000 or $20,000 for a contested case that goes all the way to trial. And I think that anybody who can give you a exact number early on in your case, if it's contested, which is what most of our cases are, I think if anyone can predict that and tell you with accuracy and specificity, they're probably not being honest with you. Just because, again, so much of what happens, unfortunately, in a divorce or a very fought contested family law cases is out of your control, because you can't control a lot of times what your spouse or what your ex is doing. And so that's why when we meet with clients and we try to come up with a game plan to keep our clients' costs low, we're honest with them that we can't always predict, with specificity what that ultimate number is going to be. I wish we could, but we can't do that. So I hope this has given you some clarity and some understanding of how much money it could possibly take to be successful in court with your case. But again, every case is different, and if you have questions or if you have thoughts about the cost of your case and want to hear strategies of how we can do everything possible at the Aberdeen Law Firm to lower your costs, I encourage you to reach out to us, give us a call or shoot us an email, and we'd love to sit down and find a time to talk to you about this. Thank you.